What does an 18-year veteran of the tech industry and a 20-year veteran of the military have in common? More than you might think. Welcome, everyone, to the Second Act podcast, leveling up your life's journey. I'm Michael Newborn, one of the hosts of the show, and I'm joined by my co-host, John Ballenger. How's life treating you today, John?
It's good, Michael. How you doing, sir?
I am doing amazing today. In this episode, we'll discuss how life's journey creates opportunities for people to constantly reinvent themselves, allowing them to grow and evolve into the people they've always wanted to become. We'll talk about transitioning into new roles, new companies, new industries, even transitioning into parenthood. We'll also talk about what makes these transitions so challenging and exciting, as well as the power of taking control of your destiny. And we'll wrap up an awesome closing segment on the things we learned and are still learning about ourselves. Does that sound like a good set of topics, John?
Yeah, man. It sounds great. I'm excited to jump in. And, man, I know that you have a ton of experience. I've got some experience. I'm living out the transition as we speak. From one career into the next. And I think you actually have a big career change as well.
I do. It's true. I'll let you tell your story first a little bit, and then I'll jump into mine. But I'm sure both are going to be really interesting for the audience, and I'll probably start from the beginning, just how I got into the space I'm in, happenstance, and then tell everybody where I'm at today. So why don't you tell everyone about your journey, John, and some of the things you're going through right now?
Yeah, Michael. I was born and raised in a town, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thought that was going to be the place that I lived my life, and really. It's interesting how things have gone full circle, but got out of college and joined the Marine Corps. Spent 20 years in the Marine Corps, traveling around, experiencing new places to live and new styles and growing my family, and felt once again, very comfortable. First I was comfortable in the city that I was in, and second I got comfortable in this career, and then ended up just completely walking away. Now, walking away doesn't sound as perilous when you talk, when you mention that I've got a retirement and I did 20 years as an aviator and, have some cushion, but definitely just cold turkey walked away and decided to start something from scratch. And that's, growing in my entrepreneurial roles. And so it was definitely a transition where one day I'm in uniform, the next day I am completely out trying to figure out what the drive, what the purpose, what the passion is. And so that's, I think, what encouraged me to meet with you, where we got to talk this transition thing out together. So it's been a year now almost. And man, still today, I still have some questions, still have some things that I'm trying to figure out, and definitely don't feel like I'm put together, but it's pretty fun. It's pretty freaking amazing to walk away with from something so comfortable to something that is day to day evolving and just getting to see where that leads you and who that connects you with. And so, like I said, pretty fun.
You're in what they call the growth zone. I learned about that at the Buffalo Leadership Academy earlier this year with some incredible group of people talking about overcoming adversity and just forging through to new things. And when you're put yourself in an uncomfortable position like that, that's where you really learn to grow. But you went out on a high note in your military career. Why don't you just share real quickly with the audience what you have the privilege to do?
I I was an aviator. I was a helicopter pilot in the Marine Corps. That was my trade. And for the first 15 years of my career, I got to fly, had the esteemed privilege of flying Marines in and out of combat and wherever they needed to go. But the last 5 years were truly a blessing. I was named as one of the pilots to join the Presidential Helicopter Squadron, and then fortunate enough the last 2 years to be named as a Marine One pilot, which is a handful of guys that are selected to be exclusively in charge of the aircraft when the president's on board. And so had the ability to fly for President Trump for 4 years and fly for Biden for the last year of my career, first year of his presidency. And it just really opened my eyes to, the ability for an ordinary Marine, and nothing, crazy, nothing abnormal about me, but take an ordinary Marine and you put them in, an extraordinary mission, and we're still able to be entrusted and we're still required to get the job done. And so I feel very honored to have that in my resume, but it also, like I said, opened up doors, but it also opened my eyes to the fact that everybody has a problem. Everybody's got issues that they're trying to solve that day. And there's just people in and around our lives that can help us out and help us grow. And so that's what I'm trying to capitalize on.
Yeah. And, I know you've surrounded yourself with some good people, some of which are mutual friends of ours and who actually introduced us. And I think it's the people you surround yourself with that help you get to that next leg of your journey, the second act.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. What about you?
Yeah. So I've been fortunate to work with myself, some incredible people, amazing companies over the last 18 years, and have just learned a tremendous amount from investors, clients, colleagues, friends, and of course, family who have helped shape who I am today. I got into the tech industry happenstance. I was actually in the financial services industry just coming out of college and happened to be home one day, and a recruiter called the house looking for my wife because she was in the field of accounting and was calling about an opportunity for her. And I said she wasn't home. And good on the recruiter, he started to probe me and pitch me and ask me what I did. And he's like, well, I might have something for you. And because I was in financial services, I knew a little bit about investing. There was an opportunity with a tech company for a role, which now today people call sort of like a customer success type of role, working with investment accounting software for insurance companies around the world. And that was my bridge into the tech industry. And 18 years later, I found myself working for one of these tech unicorns backed by all the best investors in the world, in a position to lead a group of product managers. And it's just, I pinch myself sometimes thinking like, how in the world did I get here? But in the world in which I work, tech, it's not uncommon for roles to change and for people to change companies every 2 to 3 years, sometimes even more frequently. I'm on year 4, and as of September 1st, I'll be on my second act. And I don't have...
Welcome.
Yes, I'm super excited about it. I don't have anything immediately lined up. I wanted to leave it as sort of a greenfield opportunity, be very intentional about what I want to do. And one thing you learn as you age is you just become very self-aware of the things that are important to you, your values, the people you want to surround yourself with, and what you want to do in life. So,
well, it's interesting you say that as you age. I hit 40 years old a couple years ago, and I had this revelation moment when I was sitting in my house with a guy. We're, having after dinner drinks, and he was talking to my 2 sons who were a captive audience at the time. And I saw him pouring into my boys in ways that I just really appreciated him. He was talking to him about guns and hunting and these things that maybe not hadn't come out of, come from my background. But here he had this captive audience and my two boys, and I started realizing how responsible I am for the audience that my boys have and the people that they're in front of, and how I'm responsible for that. And I'm, if I put them into a position where they're uncomfortable, that's on me. But if I enrich their lives by filling it up with people that can, give them strength and confidence and courage, that's truly a responsibility that I hold tight. So, talking about, growing and being responsible for the people that are around you and who you are encouraged by. I mean, that's a topic that I think I truly understand.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm very appreciative of my ability to surround myself with people that I want to, and put my son in situations, my family in situations where, everyone's learning from each other, growing with each other, and hopefully I'm passing on all the lessons I want, and that he's retaining that. He's still on the younger side, but you try as a parent to repeat all the good things you learned from your parents and their friends and their colleagues growing up, and not take with you all the things that weren't so good. And now I'm trying to impart the same sort of things on my family.
Yeah, man, I know it's a heavy burden. But I think it's that farmer mentality I talked to you about before, is planting those seeds, watering the seeds, taking, helping them cultivate. And one day that's when you determine how successful you are, is when that harvest comes in. And that could be a season. It could be a couple of years with our kids. It could be, 18 years to a lifetime before you realize if you were successful or not. But it's just you just keep giving and giving and hoping that, hoping and praying that it works out and it's something that really provides fruitful.
Yeah. We're all just doing the best we can with what we know. Right. And, it's, one thing they don't tell you before you become a parent is there's not a playbook you follow, and how to manage that transition from being single to becoming a couple to becoming a family. There's not this perfect playbook to follow. It's a trial and error the whole way. And everybody makes mistakes and has to face some sort of adversity in that process. But it's the mental fortitude that people have to overcome that adversity. And again, coming back to having the right network around you, network of people to help support that process.
Yeah. You say trial and error, and, the key part of that is try. You have to try. You have to get out and try. With kids, you don't get a practice run, with this transition that I'm in and you're about to jump into. You don't get this period of time where you can kind of feel it out. It's really a cut, a cliff, and you have to start doing something immediately after. And you can sit around and try to figure it out and try to, negate all the issues that you may run into. But at some point you've got to put your feet to the fire and you got to start going. And that's what I've learned in this transition, is you have this ability to really start something fresh and start something new, but you got to start. And fear is what keeps a lot of people from starting. So I encourage you, as you get in this new transition, just go for it. And if you make a mistake, hey, great, adapt from that.
Yeah, this is maybe one of the bigger transitions. You know, I've switched companies 4 times, gone from a very large 13,000 person organization down to a 70 person organization, down to a 45 person organization, experiencing all those different transitions and nuances and risks, as well as opportunities that come with each one, as well as the roles that come with each of those companies. And like you said, it's just getting started. The famous quote, you know, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And I think once you commit to something, if you've got the mental fortitude to just persevere and go through it and get to the other side, it may not be exactly what you expect it to be, but you're going to look back and be proud of where you landed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I guess what makes, in your opinion, what makes all these transitions so challenging, sometimes exciting at the same time?
Well, you know, exciting and challenging, you know, can be the same emotion. It's really, it's taking a new set of risks, a new set of parameters. It's starting something that you don't have all the information before you start out. And that's really, that's a lot of life, right? If we sit and try to mitigate all the risk before we do something, we'll never get going. You know, you think about, you know, for me being a Marine Corps aviator, risk management is, you know, it's required. We have to mitigate that risk down to the lowest level. But at some point, we do have to accept some risk. If we fly and we, you know, we're not able to cut out all the things that we may encounter. But at some point, we have to trust in our training. We have to trust in our planning. We have to trust in our co-pilots and our crew, and we've got to go. You know, you think about jumping in a car to go to Trader Joe's. You can't mitigate all the risk. You still have to get in a car. You still have to drive facing other traffic and keep going and trust in the other drivers and trust that your car's not going to stall out halfway there. But we accept that risk every day. So when we get going with a new career or something, you know, that we haven't done before, you mitigate the risk down to a level that you feel comfortable, and then you just go. And sometimes that risk may be a lot bigger. And sometimes that information may be a lot smaller, but we have to, at some point, make a decision. And that's what I was getting at for that try part is, you know, what stalls out a lot of people is they what if their decision to death.
Yeah.
And they think, what if I don't, you know, make money at first? Or what if I make a wrong decision? Or what if I, you know, can't do this thing? Well, then they're going to stay back in fear and stay inactive. But at some point they have to say, okay, I'm going to make this risk. I'm going to make the decision, and then I'm going to adjust from there. Like we've talked about, kind of the OODA loop.
Yeah.
You know, orient, observe, decide, and act. So.
Yeah, I learned a lot in that process when we worked together and the exercises that we went through. I've found it tremendously helpful. And I know personally, when I've gotten to the point where I maybe feel like I've analyzed this enough and maybe I've started to overanalyze things, I mentally tell myself, fuck it, and just go. I mean, those are the words that I tell myself.
Yep.
And it's so interesting how in human nature we over-index to like the what if negative scenarios instead of the what if positive scenarios.
Yeah.
And I think just I inherently am an optimistic person. I like to see the potential and opportunity of something. And then when the bad things come up, you just got to sort of focus on getting through that bad thing. And then once you get to the other side, it's back to business as usual or what you're trying to do. And one of the things I know for sure about transitions in life. It never goes quite as expected for anybody. Sometimes things turn out better. Sometimes things turn out worse. But the whole process is a learning process. And if anybody's ever read the book The Alchemist, the really interesting lesson in that is it's about the journey, not the destination.
Well, you throw a book out there, I've got to counter and throw a book right back at you. Outliers is a great one by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yep.
Where he talks about, the Beatles, talks about Bill Gates, these two big successes that when they pop on the scene, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, these guys are brilliant. Oh, pure prodigies. How did they get so well, get to where they are? Well, what he talks about in his book is the power of 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours of sitting in your craft, doing what you have to do to get good. The Beatles played in basements and underground bars out, throughout England for, I don't know, I think it was 10 years or something before they even became the Beatles. But, as people know them today, just playing and just getting comfortable in front of a crowd. Bill Gates, his dad worked at, I think, Michigan State, at a place where there was only one of two supercomputers at the time that you could program. And his dad taught a class where it allowed students to come in and do their own programming. And Bill found out that in the evenings, students weren't using the time. So he would ask his dad if he could get in there and program. And so for hours and hours and years, he is programming when no one else has the capability or the ability to do that, because they just don't have the computer in front of them. And he has this open door. And that repetitive time and that process for both Beatles and Bill Gates made them who they are today and who they became, and just like this podcast. I mean, this is our first one, and it's going to suck because everything sucks the first time you do it. And sometimes the 50th time you do it, it sucks. And then the 100th time. But at some point, you crest over that peak and everything starts clicking. Everything starts flowing the way you wanted it to day one, but it just took you 10,000 hours, hopefully not for us, 10,000 podcasts, but, it is a thing where you just start and you put in the time and you refine and craft and get better, and you're not going to have it all figured out, but it's the process again of starting.
Yeah. And I'm a fan of doing something you suck at.
Yeah.
It's a handful of words that if you tell yourself that, it puts you at ease with the outcome. Because if you're already sort of mentally prepared for something to suck, that you're going to suck at it.
Yeah.
Then if it does actually suck, or you do actually suck at it, it's okay. That was the expectation. But it's unlikely that's going to be the case. There's going to be something that is going to benefit from that process, and it's going to turn out better than you probably imagined.
Yeah. Well, I feel, and this is probably a very big stretch to compare myself to Michael Jordan in this sense, but Michael Jordan left basketball after 3 championships. He came back, but he left after 3 championships. What did he go do? He went and played baseball. And people were like, dude, you are horrible. Well, he hasn't played baseball he hadn't played in 20 years or, since he was in junior high and high school.
Yeah.
But they compared his greatness that he had just left in basketball, and they were expecting him to come out with the same tenacity and the same ability and the same, ability in baseball. but it just didn't happen. But he stayed after it. I mean, it was short-lived, but he stayed after it and he kept working on it. And he even admitted, yeah, this was just a dream. I just wanted to get back and try it again. Well, I left what I felt like was the top of my career, flying for, two presidencies. And I felt like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I have got to transition into something that's even more spectacular. I've got to do it. The next thing that I do has got to be on this same level or better. Reality is, man, day one, I got away from the Marine Corps and I was like, holy cow, I suck at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I, started a commercial real estate development company. I started coaching. I started doing a couple things and I'm like, oh my gosh, and all these things, I'm not good. But it's the effort that I put into it that's continuing to evolve the process and mold me into who I am and give me hope and courage that the period of sucking is hopefully transitioning into a period of, somewhat being successful and being good again at whatever I put my hand to.
Yeah, and it's the ultimate equalizer. And if anybody is trying something new for the first time, with the very rare exceptions, everyone sucks at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was recently reading a blog by Tim Ferriss, and it was really interesting. The title of it is Fear Setting. And he's talking about every month he goes through this exercise of fear setting and thinks about the possibilities to the downside and the possibilities and really the probabilities to the upside of where new things can take him. And, you and I have talked, we're both huge fans of Michael Jordan, MJ, and if you haven't watched The Last Dance, it's one of the greatest docuseries
awesome.
ever.
So good.
And in that period you talk about with baseball, if you look at him transition out of basketball and into baseball for 18 months, he works really hard. He's not at the level of the other minor league or major league players, but he just is very content or even joyous just going through that process, trying something new. And he has enough confidence in the skills that he's built that he knows if this doesn't work out, there's probably other options to pursue.
Yeah.
Which, of course, he went back and won another three championships. So there's only one MJ, but we can all aspire to be some version of MJ.
I recognize that was a huge stretch to put myself in that comparison, but I felt like it was there, so I went for it.
You got to go for it. I put you in the same circle as MJ, John.
Yeah.
But there's something powerful, right, about taking control of destiny and being the driving force of that change. You just feel like you're in control of where you're going, and you don't necessarily know the exact route, but it is empowering. And if you've set yourself up to sort of navigate that in different ways, you're gonna enjoy that journey with the people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I want you to talk about this new transition of yours, because you here have been doing tech for 18 years.
Yeah.
Right. And we were focused for the first half of this year on, my transition, but here you are in the thick of it, man. It's new and it's fresh, and all these concerns that I had months ago, I think are probably welling up in you, right? So what gets you up and out of bed and going and striving for something new as you encounter a new period of your life?
Yeah, working with you, going through some of the process with the OODA loop and some of the exercises we went through for some of the coaching we did together earlier in the year, I learned a lot about myself, Um, I learned to respect some of the accomplishments I've made. I'm kind of a humble person, and I don't like to talk about myself too much or really pat myself on the back. But I was like, man, all right, if you've done a couple things, it's kind of cool. And again, coming back to just as you age, you become very self-aware of things that are important and not important to you, and the companies that I've worked for. And I know when I transitioned from a 13,000 person company to a 70 person company, the skills you bring and what you contribute in that environment at a much smaller company, you feel the impact. There's tangibility to what you're doing, which I really enjoy. You build amazing connection with the people who are around you and who are counting on you to help the company succeed. And then I did that again at another small company, even smaller, almost half the size, 40, 50-ish people. I remember calling some friends and I was like, man, we just did this thing and it is like helped change the trajectory of the company. It's awesome. Like, I've never had this feeling before. It's amazing. And there were moments where things felt like they were going to go off the rails. I mean, it's a high risk, high reward type of environment when you're at a company of that size. And then when I joined this tech unicorn, we're on the data side of the business, and we were sort of like a startup inside of a startup. It was really small, but it was hundreds of people if you include the parent company, and now we've grown to something like 1,400 people. And so you're still making an impact, but you're definitely part of a bigger system. And I know that what drives me, what I'm passionate about is having the ability to see, feel, touch, and drive those changes in a very tangible way. And I just think it's that point in time where I'm privileged to have worked with such amazing people and worked for a company like this that has given me the opportunity to just, hey, let's part ways as friends. I really feel like we've accomplished a lot together, and let me, at this point, try to do something that really excites me. And some of the messages I've gotten from people have just been very touching, almost bringing me to tears. And it's pretty powerful when you leave that behind.
Do you know what that is? Do you know what you're going to pursue next?
I don't. When you're, and I kind of like that. It's the first time in 18 years, actually, since I've gotten out of college, where I've not had something already lined up and only taken a weekend off between jobs.
Right.
That's a long stretch. And I want to rebalance. I want to be present with my family. My son's starting up school again. And I really want to be intentional about what I'm going to do next. And it could be something in tech again. It could be something on my own. I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit and mindset. I've just never found that thing. But recently I was reading something about what another entrepreneur had said. And it's like, if you're searching for that thing before you become an entrepreneur, you're probably not going to find it. You just got to start doing stuff. And then it finds you, basically.
Man, that hits home. Yeah. Well, as my date got closer to getting out of the Marine Corps, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I've got 60 days, 45 days, 30 days. I've got to figure this out. And day one was like tomorrow, and I got out and I was like, I never figured out what I was going to do. I feel so unprepared. And so it was this tug of war of like, should I have gotten out when I did, or should I have had it more figured out and then gotten out, right? So do you have the answer before you start, or do you start and then figure out the answer? And for me, I thought it was, I got to have this thing figured out. Marine Corps ends, entrepreneurship starts, and I am sitting here, looking at a blank sheet of paper, trying to write a book and thinking, okay, where do I start? What's the title of this thing even called? This second act, right? If people would say, oh, great, you were successful at being a pilot. What are you gonna do? Go fly? And I said, no, I don't think so. I think I'm gonna do something else. And they're like, oh, what? I'm like, well, I don't know yet. I'm gonna figure it out. And it was interesting to see the majority of people who were like, wow, that takes some guts, or,
Yep.
good job. Like, I hope it works out. And then there were a very select few that would say things like, man, that's exciting. Awesome. Enjoy this time. You are going to crush it. Like, just do what excites you, so it was weird to see this imbalance, and I just, what you just said is, you just got to figure it out. And almost it's, the analogy I have is, in college, we came back from spring break, right? And pre-spring break, you knew that a lot of assignments were going to be due the day you got back or the day after you got back. But you're so focused on spring break and getting out and going to the beach or going snowboarding, and you're like, oh, screw it, we'll just do it later. But then you come back and it's the night before the assignments are due. What do? You cram.
Yeah.
And some of my best work has come from cramming because I had no other option. I just had to sit down and do it. I couldn't think. I just had to get it done. And I think that's where I came back to with my leaving the Marine Corps and going into entrepreneurship. I just had to do it. I had to be in the moment. I couldn't. The time for having it planned out was done. It was over with. I was now in the moment where I just had to do. And you are in that place now where you just have to do. We've had some time to plan and prep, and we kind of scripted that out, but now it's here. And so now it's take the knowledge that you have. You've mitigated the risk down to the lowest level. Now you just got to go and do.
Yeah, and just to touch on something you said there, when you have no other option, you have to make it work, and you figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And I'll just end on something that I think you and I share intimately. It's like having a really strong family and family values and strong partner.
Absolutely.
Is critical to
100%.
being able to persevere through situations like this, and you can have good conversations and have the support you needed inside your house. And without that, it would be harder for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something to having a spouse who has your back and is allowing you to figure it out in real time. And we're both blessed to have that. Now, I will admit I am very lucky, and I don't know a lot of men that have that, but it's huge. It's huge to allowing you to grow and expand and be encouraged at the same time. Man, having that support structure, whether it's a spouse or a friend or a coach, somebody that's going to see your faults, see where you are really struggling to start something anew, but encourage you, hey, embrace that struggle, embrace this point of the process, because this is where the magic really happens. And we're lucky enough to have that in our spouses, but I also wholeheartedly believe in getting a coach that can help bring those strengths out of you as well, and make you think uncomfortably and allow you to sit in that silence to figure out what it is that you want to truly do.
Yeah, having that circle of trusted individuals, family, friends, colleagues, even some acquaintances, just mentors, things like that, coaches, is that's one of the pieces that I think are critically important to that journey. And they've got your back. They've got your back in that process.
Yep.
All right. Man. What an amazing discussion today, John.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that we have to walk this out together over the next 6 episodes now. And I am excited to see also where we go from episode 1 to episode 7. And man, tons of things to talk about, tons of things to discover, encourage one another with, and encourage, everybody that's able to join in and listen. So,
yeah, I'm grateful for this opportunity to work with you like this, John. I'm so happy we've become friends, and I've really enjoyed listening and learning from your story. I hope the audience will too.
Yeah, man. All right. Till next time.
Till next time.
The Second Act with Michael and John stars Michael Newborn and John Ballenger. The podcast is produced by Seltzer Kings. For more information on the show, check out michaelandjohn.com, or if you'd like to get involved in the conversation, give the guys a shout on their socials at The Second Act with Michael and John on most platforms. Thanks for listening.